I've got my own little notes here on my phone just in case I forget things.
Excellent. That's great. That's great. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for doing this. I think I'll sort of just give it a one more minute and then I'll sort of, yes, Ashley has asked a question and I can't see my chat. Hold up. Yes, that's okay, Rebecca, for us to share the recording afterwards, sort of with
Yes,
yeah, cool. I just want to make
yes,
sure.
that's fine. And I've got a couple of things on there that people might want to see for longer if they wanted that. There's a couple of links to some things. So if it's possible, Rupert, do you have the capability to be able to email slides out to attendant people?
Yes, I can. What I do have like a let me yes, I can. I'm just gonna I have like a little newsletter I run, but what I do the sign up link is broken at the moment. So I'm just thinking I've got everyone's emails here, so I assume I can just people are comfortable with me shooting that out to them. Maybe if you want to opt out, just send me a private message if you don't want me to, but otherwise I'll assume everyone here is happy to get the emails and I'll just make sure I capture that before the meeting's over. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Cool, awesome. Well, it's 7:30, so yeah, tena koutou to everybody. Welcome to this session of In My Classroom with Rebecca Barrett. So just a little bit of background about where this came from. Last year, I think I ran two open fora about just structured literacy, particularly in secondary or upper years, older with older kids. That was my background as a teacher in Melbourne, was working with secondary age kids, both in rural Victoria and I'm at a school in Melbourne where all of our kids had disengaged or been expelled from their mainstream classrooms and came to us. So, literacy and high quality instruction for these older kids is something that I'm very passionate about. And so it's been great to be part of the structured literacy for older learners Facebook group. And out of those for us, some feedback was it'd be great to like have a sustained conversation or a sustained sort of insight into one person's practice. And so I put the kind of feelers out for that. And Rebecca bravely put her hand up because I know it can be, it's a vulnerable thing to do to sort of put your practice out there in front of everybody like that. And it's amazing what you're doing, Rebecca, in terms of sharing that and the openness that you're approaching the work you're doing at Spotswood with the community. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, so I guess that's me. I was a teacher. I'm building a thing called Spellcaster now. I can see some familiar names in the chat there, which is great. And yeah, it's just great to sort of have this opportunity to sort of, I suppose, shine a light and a spotlight on, try to spotlight on Spotswood. So there you go. It's great to welcome you, Rebecca, and I'll throw to you to introduce yourself and kick us off. And I think, just some housekeeping. If people make sure their mics are off, so just sort of muting ourselves, just so we don't have sort of ambient sounds filtering into the conversation as Rebecca's presenting. And also, if you have questions as Rebecca's going, maybe it's best to drop them in the chat, and then maybe there'll be time at the end to field all those questions. And the last thing I'll just say is I've got a talk coming up in March with someone called Charlotte Peverett, who she works in a special school in Victoria, and the talk is on phonics intervention or phonics practice with students with disabilities. That's her background and her research area. So if there's anyone who's working with kids in a specialist setting, kids on with disabilities, and are interested in that, I would definitely recommend getting along to that. I'll drop the link to the event into the chat as well, so you can sign up. Yeah. So, but with that, yeah, welcome Rebecca, and thank you for kicking off this In My Classroom series. I'll throw to you now to introduce yourself and say good day, and yeah, give us a chat.
Kia ora. Thank you so much. What a daring introduction. Thank you, thank you. I am really, really proud to be doing this. Something that I feel like I've worked for a long time on, something that I think I've been really trying to install really heavily in my classroom as well as in our school. I'm just happy to be here. What I the first thought that I would start with is just a little tiny bit about our context and our clientele. So we are Spotswood College from New Plymouth, to Kura Tuarua or Namotu. We have a co-ed role of about 1,000 kids, and this is our Education Count government data from 1st July 2024. Our school role includes a specialist high needs unit, as well as the alternative education cohort for New Plymouth. So that coming with that is a lot. But in the data that we use in our mainstream main area of school, we don't include the high needs unit or alt ed in our intervention role, in our intervention classes. So you can see that we have a large proportion of Pākehā and Māori students, with the other ethnicities growing. Our Māori population is growing quite rapidly, and we are getting more and more Māori students every year. Next one, I kind of thought that I would tell you guys a bit about us being a gender diverse school. So we also get quite a lot of students that have no fixed gender coming to our school because we are the only coeducational role in New Plymouth. There's another school just out from New Plymouth a little bit, but we're the only school directly in New Plymouth. So we do capture those students as well. We do have a commitment to being a Te Tiriti-led school. So from that, we have a lot of consultation with local iwi, consultation with local whānau. That's really, really important to us. And I think it's quite important to note that our students do generally arrive to us from our contributing schools, an average of 1 to 3 sub-levels below benchmark criteria. So that is when we test them at the beginning of year 9, because we're year 9 to 13. At the beginning of year 9, when we test them on EASL, reading and writing, they seem to be 1 to 3 sub-levels below. Our intervention students are sitting at curriculum levels 1 to 3, and my intervention program raises them by at least 2 sub-levels. So from where they have been and only getting to curriculum 1 to 3 over their last 8 years of schooling, raising them by 2 sub-levels in 1 year is a great, great, great feat for them. I am teacher in charge of literacy intervention. I'm not the teacher in charge of literacy overall, but I do work really, really closely with her, and we collaborate on a lot of things. Our school timetable structure is slightly different. This is our junior structure. We also have a different senior structure. But because my intervention lives within junior school, this is what we're going with today. So in that literacy line at the top, period 1, Monday to Thursday, students choose a class within the literacy line. No classes are compulsory, no subject is compulsory. They all choose a class within the line on the timetable. So literacy, they could be taking like a social studies, literacy through social studies kind of course, or a literacy through science kind of course, or a literacy through English. We've had literacy through art, we've had literacy through digital technologies, through textiles, through music, through physical education, a whole range. So it's really cool that students get to go with their passion, but still get that compulsory literacy teaching. So then they do the same thing in numeracy. And then the other part of the timetable that I'll chat about is inquiry. Inquiry is where my intervention sits. So inquiry is where year 9 intervention sits. We'll have one class in the period 3 slot and another class in the period 4 slot. We have 2 year 9 intervention teachers, so we can do 2 lots of classes at the same time. So overall, we have 4 literacy intervention classes. Previously, in prior years, we have had a bit of disconnect between what we're teaching in intervention and what we're teaching in that tier 1 literacy line. But we have been working really hard, really strategically to align that a lot better. And the results from that alignment are starting to show. For anything about co-recs, we chuck the kids in when they're ready, when the readiness point shows that they're ready to go. And all of the year 10 data then moves to the year 11 and upwards literacy coordinator, and then they deal with it from there. So I am just purely junior school in the literacy space. Inquiry is a project-based learning situation, and our kids that are in intervention kind of struggle in that inquiry space. They're really interested, but they really struggle to self-motivate and to produce work. And so they stay interested until they start having to produce the work, and then it becomes too hard for them. There is the option for them to graduate my program, intervention, at half a year because we have a semesterized timetable. And then if they graduate, all good, they can go jump to inquiry and have all the fun there. So we have some 2025 changes to Tier 1. We had some of these changes last year and we are continuing with them this year. We are introducing the explicit teaching of text type and structure, some spelling and morphology for reading accuracy, and some teacher-directed read aloud, think alouds, and some sentence structure work. We're also increasing the opportunities for extended writing. And remember, this is in that Tier 1 line. So this is that literacy through art, literacy through sports, blah, blah, blah. So we have some good tier alignment happening now. We currently don't have a provision for Tier 3, but that is one of our department goals for the future. Next, I want to chat about our selection process. I know quite a few people are interested in this. We start with reading because this is what I found and what my other literacy coordinator found, that this is what secondary teachers expect our kids to be able to do the most already. They expect that they can give them a set of instructions. They give them a reading, they give them a information pack, and they expect the kids can read it. They can read those actual words on the page. They can decode that out, but also they can understand it at a base level. And that's what our kids are unable to do. We've also found that our students who are struggling with the reading are also heavily struggling with that writing, and they can't produce that work that we're expecting of them at the end. So we chose to make our selection process based off reading. And we also then look at the accuracy of their decoding first, because you got a better chance of understanding the text if you can actually read more of it. If you can read more than 80% of the text, you're more likely to be able to understand more of that text. We triangulate with EASTL data because we test first on dibbles. We test first on dibbles. So we do that oral reading fluency, the 1 minute read aloud, and we also do the maze. Then our selection process, we run with that accuracy percentage first, and we triangulate that with their EASTL reading data, their curriculum level data. So if we have kids that have an accuracy level of 92%, which is low, but their EASTL score is showing at year 9 they're already a 4A, then we're probably not going to put them in because we don't have enough of a correlation. If it shows that more of their doubles testing is a lot lower as well, then we would look at some of that student's writing, or we would look to talk to their general cohort of teachers to get a better knowledge of that student. We think about the placement with which intervention teacher that student will go with. Me and the other intervention teacher are very similar, but also very different. We have a similar ethos, but we do it in a slightly different way just when we're in the classroom. We do the same things, but everyone has their own flavor. So we think about that knowledge of student likes and dislikes and learning preferences. And we really make sure that we take into account that teacher-student relationship, because the teacher-student relationship is a huge strength for our kura. We really make sure that we take into account that student voice, and we have a student hui, we have a whānau hui. We talk about it with all of those students that are coming in to intervention, and that's really successful. The whānau hui is a week or two after the class has been created. At that point, whānau can pull their kid out, or they can request a teacher change, whatever. But we really strive to encapsulate as many of those intervention kids as we can and retain them as well as and as long as we can. That whānau hui is really important, and we find that If we don't do that whānau hui well enough, then things are a lot harder. Numeracy have a similar but different process. They have an intervention cohort as well. Same number of students in classes, because my period 3 Monday class is another teacher's period 4 Monday class. So the literacy and the numeracy classes are pretty much the same kids, but they're just opposite timetable. I want to make a shout out to Emma Nana, because she is one of the ones who I talked to about all of this when I first started doing this intervention. And she really, really put me on the right track and gave me a whole lot of academic readings and a whole lot of information. And I just sat there for hours and I just absorbed all of it. And I'm so thankful to her, because I would not nearly know the amount of stuff I know if it hadn't been for her time and availability. So thank you, Emma. Now this is how I create my actual tailored program to the students. So we do our divils off, we do the rate, and we do the accuracy, and then we also test on Liz Kane's The Code. We do about spelling for reading. Which year level to test on the code is kind of an educated guess from their ES or writing. I look at all of the kids who we have encapsulated into our program, and then I have a quick squiz through their ES or writing and have an educated guess of which spelling rules I think they do and don't know. Generally, our kids in intervention come to us at Liz Kane The Code levels year 1 to 4. That's about it. This data here is from Oscar, go away, my dog. This data here is from my last year's cohort. This is just one of my classes. And this was the first test I did on them. This was year 4. You can see that there's a large amount of gaps in knowledge there. I then retested them down on year 3, and I had a couple of outliers that went all the way down to year 1. I only had 2 kids who started slightly higher, but you can see like this kid here, that there still is a couple gaps there that we needed to remedy. There's a couple more down the end as well. What I ended up doing with this class is I started whole class on the year 3 list. We first went absolute back to basics, and we jumped like all the way back to long and short vowel sounds, all the way down to open and closed syllable types, just to give everyone that same base level understanding, so that I can capture those really low ones, but everyone gets it, because everyone gets everything every day, right? The results from this set of testing, this now and then at the end, is that all but 2 students in the entire intervention cohort went up and completed 1 to 2 code year levels. So instead of these being all so many reds, by the end of the intervention year, they were all greens. They were all greens. I only let them move up, or I only in my head move them up when they can get only 2 wrong out of the entire thing. So if year 4 is out of 40, they'd have to be hitting 38 for me to be moving them up on my spreadsheets. I start testing them higher as soon as they start being able to do higher, which I can see in their casual everyday day-to-day reading and writing. But yeah, on my testing, we move them up 1 to 2 code year levels. That also correlates with their ES still writing spelling data, and we can see that jump in improvement there. So how do I teach it? It's all those wonderful explicit teaching methods, the gradual release of responsibility. We've got examples and non-examples for all of these spelling rules, for all of these ways of reading, checking for understanding. We do the hinge questions, cold and warm calling, turn and talk. I ask a question, we pause and we think for a couple seconds. I do about 5, which feels bloody long time. And then once I can see everyone's ready to say it, And they usually all are within that 5 seconds. Then everyone can yell it out at me. And they love doing that. They love like giving me that shout because they get to feel really confident in it, and they love it. They adore doing that. We've got really, really clear learning intentions and learning outcomes. I have them up on the board. We go through them and unpack what they are every single day. We then come back to them multiple times in the lesson. I refer back to them. I touch them on my whiteboard where I've written them. And by the end of the lesson, they can all tell me how they can do it and how they have met it. A variety of questioning styles and a super duper duper predictable lesson structure. So I think that last one is like massive, 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 massive for these kids. My intervention cohort has a high level of extra abilities or extra learning needs. So we've got some gifted students, we've got some ADHD students, we have some students with autism, we have a whole lot of sensory needs and processing disorders and working memory levels. We've got the whole range in this, like in these classes. These are classes of 15 max so that we can actually cater to everyone. So those kids that are on like a year one on the code list, then I can still cater to them while doing everyone else, because while I've got a group that are finding the example, the DGE, finding the DGE spelling rule in the text that we're reading, I can go hang out with some of those other kids and do a special lesson for them and kind of jostle them along. This is kind of more into that nuts and bolts that people wanting to really get into. So the skill to be taught first is reading fluency accuracy. Our vehicle for that is decodable readers and the code. So we use the Phonic Books UK Talisman series. There's a whole range of those and they're fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. I've just been doing, I had these classes today and the kids are all asking me, when do we get the next book? Miss, what happens next? And they're really invested in it. So these texts go all the way from CVC words all the way up to some more complex morphology. The next series we'll be buying from this is the Amber Guardian series, and which starts at some of that complex morphology, and the paragraphs are a lot longer. The next one is we worked on reading fluency, the rate of reading. Vehicle for this is repeated readings. And they do that with me. I have them Mondays and Thursdays. So they will read one text on Monday and have it for homework that night. Again, why the whānau is quite important. We then read another text on the Thursday and they read it again for homework. If it has been a difficult text for them, we will do the same text for both lessons in the week. If I can see that it's been quite difficult for them by the end of the day, Monday, I might not send it home and I might send them home something different that they have read prior, because obviously I haven't taught that text or given enough vocab or given enough decoding skills yet for that text. So that has been a mistake I have made, not a mistake on their behalf. So I need another lesson with them on that text so I can help them actually read that text better, because if they can't do it, it's not their fault, it's I haven't done my job fully yet. This is an example of that text. This is the first one of the Talisman series. And you can see there that it's quite small paragraphs. We've got some reading practice words, 4 chapters in the book, but they're only like 1 to 2 pages long kind of thing. And in the bottoms, it helps syllable them out if they're multi-syllable words, because this is one that starts at CVC and CVCC. For our repeated readings, here's some evidence for you. Our DIBELS progress monitoring texts are what we use to complete this. Individual goals that they do down this bottom corner here come from the DIBELS zones of growth from the percentile ranking sheets. Thank you, Charlotte, because she taught me all about this. I knew that it was my next step and I was stuck. I have dyscalculia, so I really get confused with some of those numbers. But Charlotte sent me a Zoom call and she created like step-by-step guide for me for how to do this. Thanks, Charlotte. You're fab. This is one of my kids from last year. We can see that month to month they were increasing, sometimes only slight at the beginning because they hadn't consolidated any of those skills yet. We start doing some rapid increase, and then we have another stall here, which is fine. That was over a set of holidays, where they went away with their whānau to a different area of the country, and they just gamed with their cousins all holidays. But then they came back and jumped straight back into those strategies, and they're absolute flyers, absolute flyers. So this exact kid went from 32 words per minute at the start of the year all the way through to 128 words a minute, which is fabulous. That start of year benchmark for year 9 is, I think, 125 words a minute, I think. And this kid met the start of year 9 benchmark when they were at 32, which is like crazy, crazy, crazy low. So this kid is fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. This wasn't my top student. This was probably about a middle ground student, really. This is the structure of my lesson. We do a really structured daily review. We go over those vowel sounds, some of those tricky consonant sounds, and the morphemes that we've taught previously. We then go to the target sound and morpheme that we're wanting to get across this lesson. We go through the spelling of that with that code list. Then we do some word decoding of some of those code words. Then we do text decoding with our decodable readers. We then jump into at-level text. I'm really, really, Oscar, stop it. I'm really, really strong on jumping these kids from decodables to at-level every single lesson, because I think bridging that gap for them is what's really important. If I keep them on decodables, then they're only getting just that knowledge. They're not getting the exposure to more complex text and more complex ideas in text and that reading comprehension of it, because the comprehension level of those decodable texts are usually lower than where they're at in their listening comprehension. I make them read everything out loud. They do no reading in their heads whatsoever. Everything is read out loud. So when they say the words out loud, it kind of hits that set for variability where they can hear the word as they say it, and then their brains and they think, oh, I think I know that word, and I actually hear them say this all the time in their little partners. I think I know that word. I've heard it before. This is when I heard it. And then they can figure it out together in their little partnership. It's so cute when they do this, guys. It's like highlight of my day. We then do that year level text. We will actually read that together. We do the teacher read aloud, think aloud with partner reading, paragraph shrinking. I'll come back to that. And then they do some independent work. Students will either be finding the target sound morpheme and explain why it's coded like that, or they'll do some written or oral paragraph shrinking. We then play some morpheme card games. I'll show you what these are in a minute. If time, we'll play them. Otherwise, we play it in place of independent work. If the class is just having a day, needs a slower lesson, it's been raining all day and they've not been able to move today, and we know what these kids are like. They got to move. Yeah. So if we just need that pace change, then we'll jump to the morphing cards, and I'll explain what kind of games we play. For homework, they'll have a decoding sheet. They'll decode out the sheet of the at-level text words, and then they'll have that repeated read of this one here, the year level text, or the decodable readers is the repeated read at the beginning of the year. At this point of the year, my intervention classes are still on the decodable readers as their repeated read at home. But from next term onwards, they will be on that year level text, one that the partner read together. They do partner read this one, but this one, the year level text, I do the teacher read aloud, think aloud, then they partner read it. Then they do the independent work where if they're having to do a written shrink or do that target sound morpheme and explanation, they are having to kind of reread that with their partner again while they figure it out with their partner. In that daily review, we have the consonant and vowel sounds, morphemes previously taught, morphemes already known if they fall into the same part of speech. So we have a list of adjectives there that, a list of morphemes, a list of suffixes that all fall into the adjectives part of speech. Some classes I'll do this over a set of slides if that's more engaging for the class, and I'll like quick flick. I do remote for slides because we're a Google school. I do remote for slides so I can be standing anywhere in the classroom. I walk around the classroom while I'm doing it. I just go click. Next time we need a new slide. Or I do it just orally, and I'll just do it with my sheet in front of me in my hand, or from my screen down on my desk, or from memory, whatever. So just class dependent on that. Some classes engage really well seeing it on the screen. Some classes would rather it come entirely from me and they're looking at me and at my face. We then do the explicit teaching of the target sound or morpheme. This is where the code comes in. We do the word list from the code program and any relevant words that fit that from our decodable reader. We then make that our way to the at level text, the year level text, so year 9 level text, curriculum level 3 to 4 level text, 4 by the middle of the year. We do that word decoding and text decoding for the decodable readers, and we'll do partner reading, paragraph shrinking, or we'll choral read that decodable reader. This is how we do the at-level text decoding, as well as the word list from the program if we need. We recap the words from the last lesson. That's a we do and a you do. I'll write all of the words for this lesson on the board. I'll either write all of them all at once, depending on the class, or I'll just put up one at a time. Sometimes I can put up 4 or 5 at a time, depending on the progress of the class. I can usually put up the whole list of about 8 to 10 words. I can put up the whole list by the end of the year. At the start of the year, I'll only be putting up 1 at a time. So here we have the word redundant. It'll just be redundant on the board, just flat like that. So here, the first thing we do is we look at the affixes. So we can see that we have prefix re, we have suffix int. We then look for any important spelling rules. So if this was going to hit our soft C or soft G spelling rule, then we would be picking that out. If this was going to be hitting a vowel team spelling rule, then we'd be picking that out. Picking out those spelling rules is important because then we can see which letter might need to stay with another letter when we're doing that when we're doing that syllable splitting. If we still are struggling to read it, we'll then do that CVC labeling with the syllable splits, and we'll label even to the point where this is that middle section, that base is a closed syllable because it's closed off, the vowel is closed off by a consonant. And so it's that vowel is going to be a short vowel sound. And they know their short vowels and long vowel sounds because that is what we do every single day in that review. We then jump to that year level text. Teacher read aloud, think aloud, modeling that comprehension, modeling that understanding in the moment, think, stop, think, pausing, all that kind of stuff. We then partner read, paragraph shrink, which is an adapted PALS routine. There's a link there, Lindsay Kemeny for Patan did a cool conference on it, which is how I learned it, and that was Emanana that put me onto that. I also learned a lot of the PALS work for an assignment that I did for one of the first papers for my master's. That was really interesting. I love that. There's a whole other section of things you can do with the full PALS workup, but I just like the partner reading, paragraph shrinking. Students, for the independent work, students can find the target sound on the morpheme and they can explain it, or they do that paragraph shrinking. How I match the pairs is I get my full doubles list of all of the accuracy of the kids from top to bottom. I'll grab that bottom half and put it up next door to the top half so that the best accuracy kid in the class is with the middle accuracy kid in the class, and then they'll be partnered up from there. If if I know that the kids will have any problems, oh my God, my dog's going nuts. If I know that my kids will have any problems working with those that pair that they've been put with, I place everybody first and I say, I'm just placing. We will chat about it. We're going to change partners if anyone's uncomfortable. I'm totally okay with that. We're going to move around. So then they have some kind of voice and say in the matter as well. The first maybe 3 lessons, people are a little bit apprehensive to read in front of somebody else. If they're a bit scared, then they'll read to me. I might get a group of 2 that are happy to go with me, but they have to read out loud to somebody. I do have one kid who is just too scared to talk to anybody, so they read to a voice note on their laptop, and they share that with me. Next slide is a school journal text. Our curriculum level 4 text, this is one of the ones we'd use. We also try to steal work that the kids will be doing in their tier 1 class now as well. That's something that we've been able to introduce this year. This one is from November 2014, curriculum level 4 school journal. This is examples of some of the words that we'll be pulling out of this. So embarrassment, predicament, techniques, blah, blah, blah. This word predicament, we've got prefix pre, we have the base dice or dite, which is assimilating base, and then we have mint, our suffix. So that's a way that we can figure out how to work with that word. They'll do for homework, again, they'll take this home. They'll also take home just a printed out sheet of these words. Either I'll type it up and print it for them, or I'll just hand write it like I have on the board. And they'll have 5 words that they take home, and they are expected to teach someone at home how to decode out these words. So they are then the experts. They are the masters. They can do it, and they are the ones who are sharing at home. Part of the whānau hui is I bring the whānau in with the kid, and we all sit in the staff room together, and I take them through an actual lesson of what we do in class. And I teach them some of those basic things as well. We go real slow with it. We do a whānau hui at the start of the year. We do one at the middle if we're needing it, if the parents are asking questions. And then we do one again at the end of the year and at the start of term 4. And these are super duper successful. These are our morpheme cards. So these are cards that I found from Smart Kids online. I think we can get them from somewhere else as well. But we can play spoons with these cards. So they got to find 4 of a kind. There's a initial person who has the card. Everyone has 4 in their hand. You can have to have 4 in your hand at all times. There's some spoons in the middle of the circle, or we use pens is what we have on hand. The dealer picks up a card. If it matches any of their 4 suffixes or prefixes or bases that they have, then they keep it. If not, they pass it on. It gets passed around the circle. If you are the first person to get all 4, you sneaky grab a pen spoon from the middle, because if you notice that someone else has grabbed a spoon, then you can grab a spoon, and the last person, the one who's out, will be the one who doesn't have a spoon. So you have 1 less than the people you have playing. It becomes really competitive. You can end up going super duper fast with it. It's just that repetition of seeing words in a different way. So they're seeing the suffix or the prefix in the word. They can see that they can break these words up into its parts. It's not just one whole big scary word. I listen to the kids play it when they play it by themselves as well, and they say, I was going for mint, or I was going for ify, and they just get really excited by it.
Let's go to the question. So the first one we had was from Nicole. Can you give some time indications for each step of the lesson structure?
Yes, for sure. Absolutely, I can. I have, let me come back. Here you go, structure lesson. So daily review takes 5 to 6 minutes. That target sound morpheme analysis there, that takes about 10 minutes. We then do some decoding of the at-level text. That again takes us only 5-6 minutes. obviously the start of the year when they're newer to it, then I'll do less words. By the end of the year, I'll be doing 10 words. Start of the year, I'll probably only do like 2 or 3. Then we do that year level text. That takes us probably the longest in it. Sometimes we don't get to that independent work. Most of the time we do, sometimes we don't. And then the morpheme card games, if we have time. And then I
Brilliant.
literally just like give them the homework sheet as they walk out the door because they all know that's what we're doing.
Excellent. Let me just find the chat here. Yep, excellent. All right, next, thank you. So from Nicole, and then we've got, could you please explain what GRR is? And I think Charlotte's fielded that. Oh, sorry, Belinda's asked, could you give us an example of a decoding sheet, please?
Yep. So that is like this one with the embarrassment predicament technique. That would be written on a page for them, and they would then do this at home by themselves. In the classroom, I'd be doing it one at a time on the whiteboard at the start of the year, but by the end of the year, I could get like almost all of them on the board. And we would do I do, we do, you do over the course of these words. So I would explain it first on embarrassment, and I would say, this is how I'm attacking it. And I'd use it as like a think aloud tool. I would then do embarrassment and predicament. I would be making sure that the words that I'm pulling out are ones that we have either already done the decoding work for, so we already know those spelling rules or those morphemes, or they're ones we are doing today. So they're not going to be ones that they don't know. They're not just going to be random hard words. If we're not quite ready for words like predicament, then we would choral read it so that I can hang out there with them.